Good evening, good morning, good night, good second breakfast, whenever you are, wherever you are. My name is Laura González, and I welcome you to Lunatic Mondays on CSNP, the Circle Sanctuary Network podcast. Today we have a very special show. I have my dear friend, mentor, teacher, and overall fantastic person, Kristoffer Hughes. He comes from Wales. He is the chief of the Anglican Druid Order, a Mount Haemus scholar, and a member of the Order of Bards, Obates, and Druids. He is a teacher, writer, workshop leader, and guest speaker at pagan conferences, camps, and festivals throughout the United Kingdom, Europe, and North America, and has also contributed to Welsh and English television and radio. He's the author of 4 books. That's a lie. You're the author of way more than 4.
11.
Yeah. And the creator of the Celtic Tarot, the Yuletide Tarot. And you can learn more about him at www.anglicydruidorder.co.uk. So that's the information on this book. But I know you're going to give us more information on where to find you.
Oh, I'll give you so much more.
And I want to say welcome, Kristoffer Hughes, to Lunatic Mondays. I was going to say Coffee Break with Laura.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to be here.
It's always a pleasure to have you. We're going to give you a frequent flyer miles or something, because this is like your 5th time on Lunatic Mondays.
Yeah, do I get a free gift or something?
You get my undying friendship. And maybe next time you come to Chicago, I'll be your tour guide again.
Yes, that was fabulous. That was really good. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed our little Chicago adventures very much.
For those who don't know, we did all the things that you do in Chicago in 24 hours. We ended up wiped out, but it was fun. But anyway, how you been? So
I've been good. I've been very busy. Things have been crazy to say the least this year. It just feels as if we're already in June or rushing through June, and I'm like, 6 months of this year has gone already. How on earth is that even possible? It doesn't feel as that should be possible, but I think it's because I've crammed so much into the last 6 months, and which is bizarre, isn't it? Because when we wrote the book for the Bee Tarot, that biography that's in there is completely wrong now. You know, it's like I haven't just contributed to Welsh television. I work for Welsh television now.
Yeah.
I have my own shows. I'm a presenter on Welsh TV, and I'm still not entirely sure where Llewellyn get. He is the author of 4 books, because I'm the author of 10, 11.
Yeah.
But maybe that's just the ones they've published.
I think so. I think they do the ones that they publish, and I have to say thank you, Llewellyn, for sending me the deck. But yeah, there's more than 4 books. There's a lot more. I know I have at least 5, and then all the ones that come out with the tarot decks, those count.
Yeah, they count. Those are books. I wrote those books.
You wrote those books. And for those people who don't know, of course, today is July 22nd. Today is July 22nd.
Oh, it's July already. Oh my gosh, the year has gone even quicker than I thought.
It's we are in the future from the past.
We're in the future.
People know how it is. They know we pre-record this because there is no way we can get our schedules to work on live. I haven't done a live show in years.
That's the crazy thing. Trying to pin any of us down has become increasingly more difficult. But I find that that's kind of exciting as well, because in the pre-COVID days, BC, before COVID, we were always doing things in person. And I think if the pandemic taught us anything, is that we can do all of these amazing things virtually, and they have just as much validity. They're really inclusive. They enable people to take part in amazing conversations that might not otherwise have the opportunity. They can't get to conferences for various reasons. And I love that these things are available. And
I love it too. I've been doing online ministry since 2010. And of course, course, when people were discovering Zoom, we've been working with Zoom for like 8, 9 years.
Yes.
Pre-pandemic, it has evolved tremendously, and obviously it's fantastic. And then it's also hard to pin down to people when they are in 2 different continents.
Yeah, different time zones.
I love the magic of that because it's what, like, full disclosure, is noon in Chicago, so it's what, like, 7?
No, it's 6:15 in the evening here in Wales.
And then, of course, it is actually 7:15 on July 22nd. Isn't that
See,
wild?
we're in multiple time zones, and in the past, the present, and the future,
Yes,
all at
we
the
are.
same time. This is magic, honey.
It is magic, honey. Speaking of honey, of course, we're gonna be talking at length about the bee tarot. For those who don't know, there is also a video to the show. So after you listen, go to my YouTube and you can watch the video. But before we jump into the video, pardon me, before we jump into the tarot, what's going on with your shows? I know you are investigating about death and dying and the cultures of
Yes.
the and
Yeah,
last
so
time we're here, you told us about it, but I want to hear more.
so currently, today, July 22nd, 21st, whatever it is, I'm in Seattle. So I'm in Seattle. I've just been in Los Angeles filming. So I'm in the United States for nearly 3 weeks, filming my new show, which I write and present. And we look at death traditions around the world. So we always start in Wales with how we deal with death, bereavement, and dying, and then we see how other cultures deal with it. So in October, we went to the Yucatan Peninsula, central Mexico, western Mexico for the Dia de los Muertos festivities. We went to India in February. We're in the United States now, and then we're going to Indonesia in August. And that will be the 12, well, nearly 12 months. It's nearly a 12-month shoot. By the time we've done all the post-production stuff and all of the voiceovers, it will probably be near to 12 months since we started filming. And we're hoping that it goes out at Calan Gaeaf, Halloween. And yeah, it's been an adventure, but it's been a really surprising adventure as well, because I've seen things that I knew they existed, but I never expected that I would ever be in a position to witness them and to experience them. And they've been incredibly mind-blowing and mind-opening all at the same time. And we've met such amazingly warm, friendly, open people who really want to share the treasures of their culture with us and have been so willing and beautiful with their freedom of expression, and that's been rather amazing. But of course, it's filled up my year rather significantly. But I also have 3 books to finish this year as well, which is a pretty scary notion when you consider that it's July already, and I still have 2 more books to finish by the time we get to December. So in the future, that's also the past, that's also the present. I will have already finished the first book of 2024. And now I'm faced with the reality of having to finish another 2 before the end of the year. Ooh, that's a lot.
That is a lot, and I don't know how you do it all, but you have fantastic talent of storytelling, and you have a fantastic talent of working your expertise on the tarot. I love the childlike wonder that you share with the tarot. The tarot reading, the tarot itself. I've seen you hold a tarot deck and be like, like a little kid. We all know through your Facebook that you cannot help yourself but keep buying and buying. How many decks do you think you have?
I think it's around 240.
Oh my goodness.
I think. I can't help it. But the thing is, they fill me with so much joy. You're so right. Every time, I only have to hold a deck of cards in my hand, and I feel this potential, this glee. And it reminds me, we've discussed this before about these were the gateway. These were my gateway drug to the occult world. You know, these got me into this amazing, wondrous, inspiring subculture that we live in. And these were my gateway. And I've been particularly enamored and in love with them ever since. And that's never waned. And I hope it never, ever wanes. And although I teach tarot, I love to teach tarot, I am a perpetual student. I'm somebody who is constantly reading books on tarot. I'm currently reading Rachel Pollack's book that was published posthumously after her death, bless her. A Walk Through the Forest of Enchantment, maybe, published by Wiser Books. And it is so amazing. So I'm constantly reading tarot books and learning more and more about this amazing tool. And it fills me with joy every time I take a deck of cards, whenever I sit. I do for the last several months now. The Anglesey Druid Order's office, which is really conveniently located only a couple of minutes down the road from where I live, and we have plenty of space in the office that we can host workshops and events. So we've been hosting monthly tea and tarot sessions, and and I won't be the only person who will be facilitating these sessions, but the ones that we've done so far, I've been selfishly facilitating them. And I love it so much to have a room full of 25 people, some of which have never, ever touched a deck of cards before, and guiding them through that wonder and then seeing them light up in the same way that I did all of those years ago. And appreciating and falling in love with this lovely tool. And I'm grateful for every little bit of knowledge, information, new ideas that I receive when it comes to tarot. I absolutely love it.
I love it too. Obviously, I mean, that's how I earn, part of how I earn my living, other than teaching and workshops and whatnot. And I appreciate a lot of things about your decks. The last three, I think, that you have published with Llewellyn, the Yule Tarot, this one, and I can't recall what's the name of the other one, but
The Celtic Tarot.
the Celtic. But
Yes.
I love, and I was telling people when I did the review of this deck, they have gone above and beyond the texture box. The texture box.
Yeah.
We're talking about the B Tarot, obviously, the B Tarot by Kristoffer Hughes with illustrations, art by Nadia Turner.
Isn't she amazing? She's done such an amazing job.
Amazing, amazing. And I appreciate a hard box. I really do. Because we who are addicted to buying tarots, we like to keep things like that.
Yeah. And did you notice that the cards have a linen stock finish?
I was gonna say I couldn't think of the name of it.
Yeah, it's
But I
called
was
a
telling people
linen stock.
linen stock. I was telling people when I did the unboxing, I know it has something to do with fabric, but I can't remember what the name is.
Yes.
So it's linen.
Yes, linen stock.
And Chris, I had this situation with my hands and the tendonitis, and a year into my recovery, I can now finally shuffle my cards again. But the fact that this deck of cards is texturized makes it easier. So it is actually inclusive to people with issues like me with my hands. And I love that they are soft. There's a good card stock on them, but they are soft enough that you can shuffle them.
Yes, because I know I'm more than aware that Llewellyn are frequently criticized for their card stock, and it's a fair criticism. The card stock is not the most superior, but I think because they went for the linen stock, it has given them a very luxurious feel. And I hope that going forward that Llewellyn will continue with this finish, because I, for one, just absolutely love it. And I have done, let me just see if I can reach it without going off the camera too much. I've also, in addition to the 3 decks that I've designed and had illustrated, I have also got this deck, which is the first ever Welsh language deck deck in existence. It has never existed before. So there you go. There's a Dewin. See?
Wow.
Dewin. There's Brenhines Cleddfau.
Wow.
Lovely. So this is the first Welsh language deck to have ever existed. Ar Olwyn Fawd, the Wheel of Fortune. And if you look at the back, it's got red dragons.
Yes. So for these folks really need to go and go on the video and watch it. So to
Yes.
describe it is the designs from Pamela
So
Coleman Smith.
yes, they're the Rider-Waite-Smith, which of course is now out of copyright. So anybody can use those images out of copyright. But I've had an amazing local woman called Lynn Thurman, who's also a tarot aficionado, but she's also a bit of a digital witch. She does all of the digital wizardry and magic and witchcraft. So she was able, of course, to take a file of the Rider-Waite and add new descriptions. So myself and my friend Beth Hughes, whose Welsh is superiorly more significant than mine because she teaches Welsh. So I thought, now then, be a very wise druid and have these checked by somebody who actually knows grammar.
Nice.
You know,
That is
so I
so
did.
beautiful.
Yeah, and I'm so very pleased with them. But this is a prototype, so this is the first one to exist. It's a prototype, so then we're going to have these printed so that we'll have them widely available to people who want a Welsh language tarot deck. And do you know what I cannot wait for is to read the tarot in the Welsh language, but also to be able to teach tarot through the medium of Welsh. I'm really excited about that. So my tarot adventure continues, you know, well beyond the Celtic Yuletide and the bee tarot. And the thing that's amazing is because we're in the past, the present, and the future, I was able to recently also work with my Yuletide tarot because it was midwinter in the Southern Hemisphere.
Absolutely.
And
Yes.
I was able to do some little bit more promotion for them and also do a few readings for my friends down in the Southern Hemisphere as we got towards the summer solstice. So that was really lovely. And it's quite peculiar because last year when they came out around the summer solstice, which was
Yes.
really peculiar. They were really early, super early. And I found myself reading almost exclusively from the Yuletide Tarot all the way from June right through to January. And I just could not put them down. And the same thing has happened now with the bee tarot since they were released in April, and they've been with me everywhere.
Yeah, they are a lovely deck. I really like I was saying, the texture. I really
Yes.
like the artistry, the illustration, the art by Nadia Turner is fantastic. But I wanna circle back into something that you said.
Mm.
That you are a teacher, but that you're always learning.
Oh.
And I have to agree with you and encourage people to continually review their interpretations of the tarot and to
Mm.
continually listen to how other people interpret the cards. Read all the books that you can because it's an interpretative art.
Mm.
It's so subjective. You'll find things
Mm.
that you've never seen before. And with the artists that illustrate, I swear to you, Kristoffer, I had a deck. I have a deck that I had for 10 years, and I was reading for somebody, and I just noticed one thing on the card that I've never noticed before in 10 years.
Mm.
So how fascinating is when that happens, because
Oh,
that gives you
totally.
that symbol gives you a new meaning. And
Totally.
and when you have 200 decks or 10 or whatever many decks, it's hard to study every single detail of every single card of every single deck that you own.
Oh, totally. Very much so. And you know, your what you say is so special and wonderful because I still love the Rider-Waite-Smith illustrations by Pixie. And even to this day, 114 years after that deck was published, people are still finding new things in it.
Yeah.
Still to this day, they're finding new things. And I occasionally will come across something and think, oh my gosh, really? That's in that card? And I'll go and look, and there it is. And I have my mind blown thinking, I didn't know that. This deck has existed for 114 years, and I've been reading with it since 1983, and I still learn new things about it. And even though I'm constantly buying all of these other tarot decks, a lot of that is because I see so many of them on Kickstarter, and I really like supporting the people who bring out these amazing pieces of art, because not only are they, it's a divinatory tool, a tool for subjective interpretation, they're also pieces of art. And I really admire the capacity for them to tell a story through art. And because I teach tarot, I get to have a relationship with so many of these decks that I use, because for the tea and tarot, for example, I pile the middle of each table with all of these decks and encourage people to, right, so we're doing this reading today. This is what we're focusing on. And I want you to do a 5-card spread for whatever this question is in this particular spread with this deck. And now use another deck. And now use another deck and see whether that deepens, heightens, changes the reading a little bit. So by proxy of the people who come to the tarot sessions or to my intensive tarot courses, I get to play with those cards, with them. And I really enjoy that, because then I'm surprised by the results and surprised by what you can glean out of these decks. Because obviously I'm never going to live long enough to be able to do thorough, in-depth readings with every single one of these decks, because I'd have to live for another 300 years. But
The thing
I
is,
still get to appreciate them.
and the surprise factor, I keep telling people, like, when we say something and the person, I read professionally, so I read for other people. And not only I teach, but I also read. And when I tell them how amazing, how surprising it is when you say something and they're like, oh my God, that is so spot on.
Mm.
And I keep telling my clients how you get surprised and amazed. I get surprised and amazed 10 times more, because when you do this on day in, day out, and you see that it doesn't wear off, it doesn't stop, it doesn't go away, it just continues surprising you. It's like, what a
Yes,
beautiful
yes.
gift. It is a beautiful gift.
I
So
love it.
the other thing, Kristoffer, about these books, the booklet, which is not a booklet, calling this a booklet is
It's a book.
oh, this is a book.
There's a book.
And these books, yeah, the smell is darling. But
Yeah.
the way that Llewellyn is publishing now is you have the full card.
Yes,
The
full
full card
color,
on color.
285 pages. And do you want to see a little bit of magic? Turn the book that way and look at the edge. Can you see it? It's a honeycomb.
Oh my God, I didn't notice
I
that.
know, but so many people don't notice it initially. But yeah, it's got a honeycomb gilding. Is that what they call it?
I
It's
think
a
so.
particular wash, and this is brand new. Llewellyn have never used this wash, and it's there. Look, it's at the top, it's at the bottom. So when I was at the
Oh,
Llewellyn offices in March, they had over 100 of these stacked up together that I had to sign. And because they were stacked on top of each other, it created this vast network of honeycomb. It was quite beautiful. I had to take several pictures of it. But they
I wish
have the
I would have known
production.
that when I did the unboxing. I didn't notice that. But
Isn't that
the other
lovely?
part, just the magic of the book itself, is people can practice bibliomancy. I know I do that.
Oh, yes. I love me a bit of bibliomancy.
And like I told you with the Yule Tarot, I noticed the same with this one, that you can utilize, I know I can utilize them as oracles.
Yes, yes.
Pick one and then read the upright or reverse meaning.
Yeah.
And that could be your oracle for the day.
Yeah, it can. Yes. And also, if you flip through the book, you'll notice that the little bee flies across the pages. See?
Wow.
The bee is in a different position for every card. So when you flip through it quickly, it gives the impression that the bee is flying through the book.
What a beautiful piece of magic. I'm doing that. I'm doing that right now with my book. And I mean, we can put it on the screen, but you really need to get your own,
Yes.
and so you can play with it. So tell us about the process, because I couldn't help but notice when I did the unboxing and I look at the high priestess. Pardon me,
That's the Empress.
okay,
Yeah, she remind you of someone?
she reminded me of someone.
She does. She should remind you of someone. She looks like you.
She does look like me a lot. And what I told people on the unboxing, Kristoffer, is how important it is for a person to see themselves represented.
Yes,
Um,
yes, exactly. And we have all of the colors of the rainbow in this tarot as well. I wanted to make sure that all peoples across the diverse range of our planet were represented, because every single civilization and society on Earth have had a relationship with bees. Even people who live high up in the Arctic Circle, they still have bees in the summer months. And there are very few communities on our planet that don't or have never had a relationship with bees. And not only did people have relationships with bees, but they also entered into their mythologies and into their folklore, into their magic, and into their supernatural or preternatural practices. And so many cultures around the world saw the bees as particular messengers for certain functionalities in life, particularly as messengers for the dead. And we have this amazing ancient practice here in the British Isles where you go tell the bees. You tell the bees the daily news. You go and tell the bees. You must tell the bees if the beekeeper dies. And there's this lovely tradition of telling the bees what is happening to you. And I love that because we have bees in the garden. I'm a beekeeper's wife, really. My husband Ian is the beekeeper. I'm the beekeeper by proxy. And they bring so much color and diversity and wonder to our lives and to our world, because they cause you to see the natural world through their perspective. And when they're out of the hive, they're acting almost as individuals for the benefit of the hive. But when they return from their foraging, they enter the hive. And do you know this? There's a remarkable mechanism that switches off their olfactory nerves. So the second they enter the hive, they become blind and they move through the hive instinctively knowing exactly where they're going in the dark. And they're able to even relay messages and information about different foraging, about different plants within their square mile, utterly in the dark. And at that point, they're behaving as a collective, as a true hive rather than as individuals. And there's so much magic. And the more you look at mythology, the more you look at lore and folklore, magical practices, the bees are everywhere. And of course, now we have this understanding that we are utterly dependent on pollinators for the well-being of our planet. And it is a grim reality that in many parts of the world, we have created monocultures, which have had devastating effects on bee populations. And there are certain countries, I think the United States is one of them, where they have bee trains, where there are hives on the back of very slow moving trains that cross huge, huge swathes of countryside, and the bees will go and pollinate and return because we need them. We require them in order for the well-being of our planet and of ourselves to be maintained. They keep things in balance. You know, not just the bees, evidently. There are bumblebees and mason bees and hornets and flies and solitary bees. And all of those are represented in my deck as well. So as we go through the minor arcana, they're represented by different types of bees, not just the honeybee, because there are so many other bees that are in our world that bring so much color and diversity to the insect kingdom, and you can see in my sun card. So I'm holding up my the book with the image of the sun card, and you can see so many bees, so many. And just to ensure that none of them are left out, there are even some flies here as well, because they also pollinate. And I just love how Nadia has captured this beautiful variety of bees that I wanted displayed on this. I mean, when I thought of the sun card, it had to be a sunflower. There was no two ways about it. It just, and that's what's amazing with the tarot. When you are designing or conceptualizing a new deck, it's amazing how many things fit, how many things find their way naturally into a system that has existed for over 114 years. And I love that. So even though it doesn't have a small child upon a horseback, it still has that symbol of the sunflower, which of course you see in the background behind the wall of the individual on the horse within the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. And so it's faithful in one way and it's new and different in another way, and yet it still retains the mystery of the original Rider-Waite-Smith, and I hope that whatever deck I create is an homage and honors that original deck. So the process itself is quite it's quite cumbersome, because it takes an awful lot of time to sit down and design and decide what's going to be depicted on what card, because there's no way I could have fitted every single bit of folklore and mythology relating to bees. There was no way I could have fit them into the tarot deck, because there's too many and there's only 78 cards. So I've tried to mishmash so many different themes into one image, where people, depending on where they live on the planet, might see elements of their own beekeeping lore reflected in the cards. Some of them are very obvious and some of them are maybe not so obvious, because they're an amalgamation of different traditions and folklore. And then it's like designing the cards, getting them out of my head onto sketches, and my sketches aren't the best in the world. And then poor Nadia then had the unenviable task of going about interpreting my visions into something that is an actual image, and she just did the most amazing job. She was an absolute joy to work with, and she's put her own little angle on things as well. There's some Australian bees, because Nadia lives down in the southern hemisphere in Australia, so there's some Australian bees in there as well. There's a little bit of Australian folklore in there, so it's a really nice little snapshot, of different hemispheres, different continents, different perspectives, all bled into one deck.
It is the importance of the lore of the bee being planetary, and the beekeepers being planetary,
Yes.
because it's not only about, oh, you have to fill a quota of having a black, a brown, a queer, no, it's following the folklore that is planetary of these pollinators, among other pollinators.
Yeah.
And being faithful to that vision. And then also the art by Nadia, I don't think I've ever seen her art before, but when I did the unboxing, I gasped. I gasped at some of the images. The sun was one of them.
Yes.
The Melissa was the other one that made me gasp.
The Melissa, the Melissae, or the Delphic bee, she's just
it's otherworldly. Her eyes are amazing. It's beautiful. So did you actually sit down with Nadia and talk about things? Did you do Zoom calls? Did you?
Yes.
How did that happen?
Yeah, so it's a collaboration between Zoom, sending sketches. I create immensely detailed descriptions of each card, So each card's description is detailed down to the colors that are being used, to the textures, to even to things. So, I'll hold the book up here so that those watching it on video can see. But if you look at my 8 of Wands, you can see all of the pollen is gathered on the legs of the bumblebee. So I didn't just want it to be a bumblebee sitting on a flower, because that's not the purpose of the bumblebee's visit to the flower. She's there not only to collect nectar, but she's also being covered in the pollen of that plant. And I wanted that to be a message that was appropriate. If you consider the meaning of the 8 of Wands, it's one of the only cards in the Rider-Waite system that doesn't have a human being within it. And there's this implication there of swiftness, of making something manifest, of an action that has a mercurial communicative component to it. And I wanted that depicted in the fact that the bumblebee is a messenger. It is carrying the message of that particular flower, which is a snapdragon. And it's carrying the message of that flower away to somewhere else by an action, So it's causing something to move from one state to another state and then making it manifest. So not only is just having 8 wands flying through the air, which is a very typical Rider-Waite-Smith depiction, the bee is also emulating and mirroring that component of the 8 of Wands, but also of that mercurial aspect as well that we find within the number 8s of the minor arcana. So all of these things, they have to be thought about, and even the choice of flower, the color of flower, all of these things have meaning. But then those meanings are not necessarily what you find on the opposite side of the page, because I think it's somewhat pointless to give a reader of the book every single bit of information that I've encoded into those cards, because then that kind of like strips the meaning of the card down to its basic foundational principles. And the beauty of a tarot card is that those elements speak to the reader naturally. They're then able to interpret, why is it the color pink? What do I get from that? Why is that bumblebee there? Why is there pollen on the legs? Why are the wands going in that particular direction? Why does the Melissae, why does she have wings on her back? Why is her dress of this particular nature? And I don't want to explain all of those things. I obviously have an explanation for them, because I want the readers to be able to glean the occult wisdom out of those images, by allowing them to very subtly infiltrate and inspire them, and of course, and that's how we read cards, isn't it? We study the system, we're learning the system, constantly learning the system, but we're also being inspired, and our intuition is also kicking in when we look at these powerful symbols. So I hope that people, with that one example of the 8 of Wands, that people might just look at the cards in a slightly different way and think, what was Kristoffer thinking when he designed that? What message is there in there? And the thing that's amazing is that I've come across so many people, especially from the Yuletide Tarot and the Celtic Tarot, who have told me something about a particular card that I never had in mind. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you saw that in there? And then I'll go and look at it and think, yeah, it is there. So then even I surprise myself with my own work, which is just lovely.
And I love, for example, I'm holding up the 5 of Jars.
Oh gosh, so am I. Look at this.
Which is obviously a card of sorrow and bereavement, and you and I are a little bit obsessed with that kind of work, working with the death and dying and bereavement and all that. And I think it's done so beautifully.
Thank you.
The artist, I'm really amazed. Another one that that is beautiful is the Three of Swords.
Yeah, it's very visceral, isn't it? It's very visceral. But but even the 5 of Jars is particular telling in respect to what I was talking about earlier on, which was go tell the bees. So the reason this lady is going down to the hives is because the beekeeper has died. So essentially, this is the beekeeper's widow, and she is telling the bees that the beekeeper has died in case they swarm. Because if the folklore is, if you don't tell the bees that the beekeeper has died, they will swarm. They will react to this unknowing. And whilst she is bereft and she is sorrowful, there is still all of this plenty. There is still the treasure and the joy that comes not only from the relationship that she will develop with the bees, but also the new life that she finds herself within as well, you know, living in a reality where somebody that you love is no longer a part of that reality in a physical sense. So the meaning is still retained in its original Rider-Waite-Smith capacity, but then there's that other element of folklore in there. Go tell the bees that the beekeeper has died, and I felt that that was really important to have those overlays. Again, bringing in the folklore, but of course, somebody might read that, and I'm not sure whether I actually mention that in the book. No, I don't. I don't mention that in the book about you must. Oh, no, you do. Yeah. Here we see a widow who moves to inform the bees that their keeper has died. But the pictures in themselves, they can sometimes be very visceral, but sometimes they can be very subtle. Visceral, like the Three of Swords, and subtle, like the Five of Jars, you know, and other cards that are in there. And it's been a ride, you know. They're always surprising how they turn out, because I have this original plan, and then as the plan develops, invariably it starts to change and it starts to morph as my relationship with the deck deepens, and as the artist relationship with the deck deepens as well. And some of the associations are really obvious, like the honeymoon. You know, which is the honeymoon. It's a direct relationship with bees. The fact that love, coupling has this association with bees, and we use it in our vernacular. So some of the symbols are really obvious. But at the same time, I didn't want that to be an obvious depiction of a couple, because it isn't. These might be two individuals. She may have just got married, or he may have just got married, and this is just what she likes to wear. There's still ambiguity in there, you know, and I felt it was important that the ambiguity is in there as people look a little bit deeper. And then the symbol of the caduceus I've encoded into the flight of the bees from the typical Rider-Waite-Smith Two of Cups. So I just love how, when I look back at it now, at the time it feels not strenuous or stressful, but it's very time consuming, the amount of thought that has to go into it. But of course we forget, don't we? We forget about how difficult something might be when we're in the midst of it. And now that I get to look back at it, I can see other things that were perhaps influencing me to design these cards in a particular way that at the time I wasn't necessarily aware of. So there's still things in the Bee Tarot that surprise me, in the same way that there are things in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck that surprises me. And I created it. So that just tells you that there's this, when we're working with a tarot, we're not just working with one deck of cards, we're working with a mystery school that is ages old, that has the ability to inspire and influence those who connect with it in ways that we might not be able to articulate fully, that we understand somehow that we are part of the drama of its magic. And that fills me with love and joy.
And the thing is, the openness to interpretation has to be there, because what a skull means to me might not be the same of what a skull means to other person.
Exactly.
And therein lies the mystery of the divine and the message. And I promise you, folks, sometimes you are reading with the same deck that you've read for years, and a new detail, a new stroke of the artist, new, even how the light is catching into the card at the moment that you're reading it
Yes, yes,
influences how you what are you going to say, what
yes,
is the
yes.
message that you are going to convey. And I think it's beautiful that you don't, yeah, that you decided not to explain the cards, so to speak, so that everybody looks at them and has their interpretation, which
Mm,
I promise you is not
yes,
going to be too far off from the message. Quite contrary,
yes,
you
yes,
might
exactly.
you might nail things that were not written there.
Yes,
That
yes. You know, because there's an example here, you know, seeing this card here. And I've put the buzzwords hierarchy, generosity, and receiving, but the picture is telling you significantly more than that. Because my suit of pentacles is so all of the cards represent the major arcana are these archetypal forces between humans and bees, because obviously it's being written and designed and conceptualized from a human perspective in relationship with bees. And then the minor arcana is the nuts and bolts, the what's of that relationship with bees. But in the pentacles, it becomes more abstract because not only have we had this relationship with bees, but they've also entered our art. They've entered our art, they've entered our crafts, they've entered every aspect of human creativity from the making of candles, you know? And so I wanted pentacles in particular to represent the more abstract ideas that humanity have had because of the relationship with the bee queendom and how that queendom has bled almost into every aspect of human relations, you know, from its very, you know, that's a very commercial perspective on how humans have benefited from the bee queendom, but very different from the devil card, where that relationship has been manipulated and exploited. Whereas here, this beekeeper has been making potions and lotions and lip balms and hand creams from the byproducts of the bees that she cares for. And this is winter now, and her bees will be in their hive, nice and warm. She feeds them with beautiful sugar syrups, and in return, she gets to share their bounty in winter. And I felt that it was really important that I had those abstract elements of the bee queendom and its relationship with humanity as part of the deck. And the suit of pentacles lent itself really well to that, you know. So it's I love the suit of pentacles. I love the suit of pentacles so much. And that's one of my favorite ones. I'm not sure why.
the two of
Oh, well,
pentacles.
yeah, no, maybe I do know why, because for one thing, it's winter and there's snow.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a snow baby and I love snow. But there's something about the colors of this that is so beautifully calm and has a slightly different feel to the traditional Rider-Waite Smith. You know, the two boats are still there. The boats are still on the water, but the water isn't as turbulent. I've calmed it down a little bit. And this idea that these two elements are up in the air and they could land in any configuration, you know, and I love how the twos in the tarot don't necessarily represent the actual coupling, but the idea of the coupling, the
Mm-hmm.
potential within a coupling of ideas, people, situations, projects, etc. And I love that one. I keep meaning to get that one blown up large and put up on a wall. But then I have other favorites. And how do you choose?
I think all the pieces of art that are the configuration of this whole deck are just fantastic. And you know, as an artist myself, or an aficionado, compared to we don't compare our art to other artists. As an artist myself, I can appreciate um the work that Nadia put in these cards, but every single one is so colorful and so beautiful,
Mm,
so full of life and little details. And this is one of those books that you can look at the book 7 million times and you're gonna keep finding different
yes.
details. And I think
Yes.
it's just
Yes.
beautifully
So
done.
many. You know, and my and what I love is, and it was Nadia's idea as well. It was Nadia's idea to have a shift so that we went to the when we got to the court cards of the suit of pentacles, they're no longer human because it's this abstract sense. So suddenly what we have in the suit of pentacles are the actual bees representing, you know, so the princess of pentacles is a honeybee, the prince of pentacles is a hornet, because it has that speed and dexterity and determination that the honeybee doesn't have, you know? And so, and then tying in to ancient Mediterranean and Mesopotamian goddess figures, we have the queen bee, you know, and that just lent itself so well that not only is this the Queen of Pentacles, this is the queen bee of the hive. So it lent itself beautifully to having the opportunity to being abstract. And then this one is the drone, which you can identify immediately by his enormous eyes. And it just suits the King of Pentacles, whereas, of course, all of the other suits and the court cards do have human figures in there. And my suit of swords is quite peculiar because my suit of swords, all of the people are very Scandinavian.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that they're Scandinavian is that Scandinavia is to the east of me. It's to the like to the north and to the east of where I'm located. But also Scandinavia is where I go to think. So you see, so immediately you kind of think, oh yeah, you know, as somebody who knows the tarot, it's like, yeah, of course, because the suit of swords is all about our mental agility. And I go to Finland to immerse myself in thought and thinking, which is an important aspect of our creativity, right? So I wanted that to be an homage to this connection that I have with Scandinavia. So you'll find that those are very blonde, they're very pale, you know, they're very Nordic in their appearance, you know. And that was really important for me to have that
The
representation
stars, where are
because
the stars? Is
so
that Ireland?
so is where, sorry?
Is it Ireland?
No, so the jars take us more towards Central Europe and towards Northern Africa. So places. So if you look at some of the colorations of their skin, they could be from Jordan, they could be from Iraq, they could be from Israel, they could be from Cyprus even, or they could possibly even be from Tunisia. So you know that Mediterranean basin, where of course so much is almost that whole Mediterranean region, not just one country. It's very tempting to think of Greece when it comes to particular mythologies to do with bees, with Zeus's birth and all of that. But that entire region, which encompasses dozens and dozens of different cultures, different varieties of people, has so much bee involvement and bee associations. It is absolutely amazing. And then when you descend into the African continent and into the South American continent, there's even more. You know that there's not only do you have the heat, the equatorial heat that enables the bees to be productive almost every single month of the year, but you have the way in which that influences the people. So my suit of wands are the people that occupy the hotness of the earth. You know, so they are Central Africa, they are India, and they are the Far East and South America, or the Amazon basin. They're those people that have that particular relationality to bees because of the way in which their landscape speaks to not only them, of course, but also to the bee queendom, you know? So isn't she gorgeous? I love
She
her
looks
so
like
much.
a Brazilian dancer.
So yeah, so she's my glamazon Amazonian,
She's beautiful.
you know,
Oh
and
my
I just
goodness.
love her.
I am in love with the bee tarot. I think it's gonna be my go-to for the coffee breaks for a long while, probably all the
Oh,
summer
thank
because it's just
you.
beautiful.
Thank you. I love her. And also, and isn't it peculiar as well in the way that the way that I conceptualized them, when I had an idea of whereabouts these people, and of course we all know that the court cards are not just individuals, they're an amalgamation of the qualities held within the family of the court cards. They're the who of the tarot, but in a very amorphous and fluid way. And even though I had an idea of these people and where they would have lived on the face of the planet, the thing that surprised me is that when I went to Mexico in October, I saw these people. I saw these women with these beautiful, long, wavy hair, with beautiful, deep set eyes, like yours, these gorgeous, deep set eyes. And then when I went to southern Egypt in 2007, I met this man. This man was there. He was Sudanese. He was from the Sudan. And I wanted these people to represent all of that cauldron of diversity and beauty. So even though the people from that I see in my head, the swords, I go to Finland. I wanted Scandinavia in there, but I only go to Finland. That doesn't include Norway and Sweden and Russia and Siberia. But all of those people are in those people, the Icelandic people, the people from the Svalbard Islands, the people from, the furthest reaches of, northern Russia, up all the way up into the Yakut region. I wanted all of those to be those who are to the east, and the people that I think about when it comes to inspiration, when it comes to the diversity of inspiration available to us by our cousins on the continent. And so it was exciting and adventurous because I was able to play with the people that I've met in my own life and how they contributed to the core cards. And that was an interesting thing, was to sit down and think, who's my Queen of Wands? Who do I see and perceive to have the qualities of the Queen of Wands in my life? And one of those is you. So, you are an inspiration for my Queen of Wands because you hold the quality of the Queen of Wands. But so does this beautiful Aboriginal man that I met down in South Australia. He had these qualities of the Queen of Wands that was so vibrant in him. And so I was thinking of all of the different people I'd met. And I'm very, very lucky in that I've had so many opportunities to travel the world and then pick the people that I knew. And I always tell people, when you're learning tarot, think, of the court cards as the who of the tarot, and think of the people that match those descriptions. And it doesn't matter whether they're a she, a they, or a he. We all have those qualities within us. And it was exciting to have, that, that lovely connection to the different people in my life. So and I'm sure, I know it's very difficult to conceptualize ourselves in the decks, but you certainly have that charismatic and intuitive qualities that is held within the Queen of Wands, and you have those beautiful Mexican eyes, which is also in the picture that I have, and that's one thing that we share. See, I have the same color eyes as you. So there's always been this connection between the Celts and the Mexicans. I'm convinced of it.
Yes. Well, when I fixed myself to start recording this show, I wasn't expecting that I was going to look like your Empress. But never in a gazillion years I was going to expect you mentioning inspiration for this card. So you heard it here, folks. And I'm sorry, Kristoffer, the time has flown because every time you and I sat together,
this is a problem.
we can just talk for days.
Yes. Oh gosh, we have been for an hour and 10 minutes. Wow. It's an hour show.
It is an hour show, but I'm sure people are loving it, and obviously people who are able to watch the video. If you are just listening to this random walk to my YouTube, so you can watch the video, so you can watch all these beautiful images.
Yes, do.
So you can look at me making little eyes while Chris is talking about my eyes, and Of course, today I don't have a lick of makeup on my eyes, but they're still beautiful.
They are. Indeed, they are. Like pools of wisdom.
And thank you, my love. And Chris, I have to ask you the questions, of course. I have to ask you, where can people find this tarot?
So they can go directly to Llewellyn Worldwide at llewellyn.com. That's Llewellyn with 2 L's at the beginning and 2 L's in the middle. They can go to the usual places where books are sold. Some of the sites are named after rivers. They can go to their local bookshop. It's always good to support your local bookshop. My other books can be ordered via your library or via any other bookseller. If you are in the United Kingdom, you can purchase a deck directly from me. Just go to angleseadruidorder.co.uk or find me on Facebook as Kristoffer Hughes or Instagram Kristoffer Druid, and I can wing a copy to you in the United Kingdom. Since we've left Europe, it makes it very difficult for us customs-wise to send them out of the UK. It becomes very, very costly for people. Other than that, they're widely available, and I also come to the United States fairly often as well. And if you want to see more and engage in a fabulous little tarot workshop, then I suggest you come to Paganicon in Minneapolis in March of 2025. I will be there with the amazing Mara Starling, and then we'll be going on to Sacred Space Conference in Baltimore for some more magical shenanigans.
Wow. Thank you for throwing that piece of information, because now I think I'm going to have to go to Paganicon on
Yes.
5. And thank you all for being here. I like to remind people, of course, of all the plethora of shows that exist on CSNP, the Circle Sanctuary Naval Podcast. We have over 1,000. We are currently at 1,100 free shows filled with rituals and interviews and commentaries and the wisdom of all the volunteers, the group of volunteers that create CSNP. So we have Circle Talk, we have Circle of Nature, we have Blue Marble, we have Songs of the Pagan Tribe, we have Paganos del Mundo, and of course we have Lunatic Mondays with yours truly. Please go to Kristoffer Druid, pardon me, Tarot Anglesey Druid, angleseadruidorder.co.uk for all things Kristoffer Hughes.
Yes, indeed.
And if you want to help us keep this shows going, for me to be able to volunteer, I need to pay my bills. So you can always hire me for a tarot reading, for energy work, for your wedding, to officiate your wedding or your baby blessing, your baby naming, etc. Or you can come to my very many classes that I do online. Kristoffer, we're doing an online series called Decolonizing the Goddess, talking about Aztec goddess.
Yes, yes, I've seen.
And the people that have come to those classes, they love them. And if you haven't come, you can buy them on demand, or you can buy any of my other classes that I've taught throughout the years. I do have an introductory tarot series that people can buy as a series and then learn at their own pace. So there are plenty of ways that you can support us. By today, I think we already have a Patreon. If we don't have a Patreon yet today, we very likely going to have a Patreon pretty soon. So follow all things Laura González and follow all things Kristoffer Hughes. And Kristoffer, as always, my love, my gratitude, my admiration, and I am just in awe that we are actually friends. That is a wonderful thing for me. And I leave you the microphone so you can say goodnight to your audience. And let me tell you something live that I always tell them on Facebook, but I don't think I've ever had the chance to say it in person. You have the most beautiful smile I've ever seen in my life. And I like to tell you that every time I see you smile. So I leave the microphone so you can say goodnight to the audience.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for listening. Thanks, Laura, for having me. It's always a joy and a pleasure to spend an hour or two in your company. And yes, find me on social media. I'm all over it like a rash. And until next time, I shall bid you diolch yn fawr, noswaith dda, Welai chi eto.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. And until we meet again, never forget that you are loved. Bye-bye.
Mwah.